Welcome to another episode of the For the Love of Cricket podcast with Jim and Akim. Today we'll be discussing the match between the Netherlands and South Africa. The Netherlands pulling off an upset victory over South Africa. South Africa batted first and made, no, Netherlands batted first and made 254. South Africa, in their reply, could only muster 205. What is your take on the game?
I believe it's a massive win for the Netherlands. It's an upset against a South Africa team that came into the tournament highly touted. They were one of the informed teams. I believe the Netherlands played a good game of cricket, well-rounded. I believe that they got some momentum in the latter part of the batting innings. I believe South Africa didn't bowl well and catch well against the Netherlands team. And then the Netherlands started really strongly with the ball. They got 4 wickets early, and those 4 wickets really set South Africa back, and they were able to stifle South Africa throughout the innings, and they got a famous victory in this game today.
So Netherlands batting first. They were what, 50 for 4, then 82 for 5. Then they recovered to 245. Could you give us a breakdown on their innings?
I believe that the captain, Scott Edwards, he was very good. He made 78 from 69 deliveries, had 10 fours and a 6 in it. I believe that his innings really held the Netherlands batting effort together. It was an innings that rebuilt the batting effort. He scored timely boundaries and he pushed the South African bowlers back. I believe that he was ably supported as well. There were a number of cameos. No real big scores, just 20s. But the 20s got them to a total of 245 important cameos. One thing that I must note as well is that the 10th wicket put on 40 runs. And those 40 runs came in about the last 4 or 5 overs of the innings. And the Netherlands scored at about 12 or 13 runs in the last 6 overs of the batting effort. So South Africa really dropped the ball towards the end of the Netherlands innings, and they capitalized and gained momentum from that.
We have spoken in previous episodes about the importance of the top order for these not well-established teams like Netherlands, Afghanistan, and Sri Lanka to a lesser extent. Having seen the Netherlands fall to 82 for 5 and then counterpunched the counterpunch was led by Captain Edwards. He played a number of sweep shots. Do you think the recovery going into the death overs shocked the South African fielding unit?
Yeah, I believe that it shocked the South African fielding unit. I think that coming into this game, they were probably slightly complacent. They believed that the Netherlands would have folded, especially with how the Netherlands batting innings started and they were under pressure. South Africa probably believed that they would have folded for about 100 or 60, 170 runs, and they would have cruised home. But the Netherlands showed a lot of fight in the batting effort, and that really got them to a total that it was a tricky total. We've seen in this tournament where totals of about 240, 250 on these pitches where the bounce is probably variable and the ball spins and gets old a little bit faster. It's not that difficult. It's not that easy to score, I should say. And South Africa found that to be the case in this game.
I hear you mention that South Africa were probably a bit complacent. But knowing that the opposition consisted of Roelof van der Merwe, a man who has played over 100 games for South Africa, knowing the fighter he is and the fighter he was when he had that uniform on, don't you think that would have been a mistake on their part?
Yeah, it definitely was a mistake on their part. They should have played hard up until the overs were finished. It wasn't the full allotment. I believe it was 44 or 43 overs, but you felt as if South Africa sort of drifted off in the game towards the middle and latter overs, and the execution was just not great. It was not up to the standard of a team that many are touting as possible contenders to win this World Cup title. It was an off day for them. I believe that the bowling effort was below par in my estimation.
I recall seeing a lot of a number of length deliveries being bowled towards the death overs. The execution of the South Africans seemed to be poor. I don't know if that was their plan, but a lot of them ended up in the stands. What is your take on that?
I believe that the execution was bad. As I said, a number of length deliveries that were deposited in the stands. When you look at the last two batters for the Netherlands, Roelof van der Merwe and Aryan Dut, Van der Merwe made 29 from 19 deliveries with 3 4s and a 6. And Aryan Dut made 23 from 9 deliveries with 3 6s at a strike rate of 255. So those last two batters for the Netherlands put on, those two batters combined made 52 runs in 28 deliveries. In these conditions, that is a lot of runs. And a lot of runs at a very brisk pace. It shows that the bowling execution was not great. The bowling plans probably were not proper to them. A lot of deliveries, a lot of length deliveries, as we said, and the batsmen duly capitalized and deposited them into the stands.
So in response, South Africa made a 205. They had a decent start with Captain Bavuma and Quinton Decker. And then entered Roelof van der Merwe again, getting Bavuma out, and then getting Rassie van der Dussen out. Both, well, Bavuma was bold. It was, you said earlier that you thought it was a lazy shot.
Yeah, I believe that the foot movement was indecisive. Um, as you mentioned, Van der Merwe picked up two very important wickets, two wickets of probably the form batsmen in the South African team thus far. Van der Dussen has a century as well. I believe that Van der Dussen's wicket, with the total at 43 for 4, he became the fourth victim, making it 44 for 4. I believe that his shot selection was poor. He played a reverse sweep, hit it straight to the field and was out caught. But I believe that the timing of the shot was a bit off. The innings needed a bit more consolidation. And for somebody like Rassie, who has been so good for South Africa in 50 over cricket, from the start of his career, he averages above 60 in 50 over cricket. You felt as if he would have probably assessed the situation a bit better. So I believe that his wicket was a key wicket and it was an untimely one for South Africa.
Van Meekeren got the wicket of one of the other key players, the man who has the fastest World Cup century. Aiden Markram got him out for 1. And then Klaasen, you would say, was unlucky. It's a shot that in any training session, you would say 6 or 4. Picked out the man on the boundary, picked out the tallest player on the field. It was a comfortable catch for him on the boundary. David Miller was given a life, and he never made much use of it. What's your take on those wickets? Or those innings?
I must say that I believe that the seamers from the Netherlands bowled very well on the surface. A number of the deliveries that they bowled were cross seam deliveries. Generally, cross seam deliveries, you have a side of the ball that's a bit shinier, that more work has been done on, and the other side is rougher. And generally, what bowlers try to achieve when they do this is variable bounce. If they hold the ball cross seam and release it and it hits the shinier side, it generally skids and keeps a bit low. And when we look at the wickets of Marco Jansen and Aiden Markram, I believe those two wickets were two deliveries that came from cross-seam deliveries from the Netherlands bowlers. So I believe that was very good execution from them. That being said, I believe that both batters probably could have gone forward, especially in the case of Jansen. David Miller, however, I believe that his wicket was a very key wicket, and that was probably the final nail in the coffin of South Africa. We saw Maharaj put on a decent score towards the end, a decent cameo, along with Poet C. But David Miller took an unnecessary risk, I believe. And for somebody of his experience and caliber, I believe that it was a bad shot, and it really let the Netherlands back into the game. They would have probably given them the bit of confidence that they needed to wrap the game up, because they probably would have seen Miller as the last man that would have held the South African innings together and probably take them over the line. So that was bad execution on the part of David Miller as an experienced player.
A key point that we haven't mentioned as well was the captaincy of Scott Edwards. He came in a tricky situation when he was batting, saw the team home towards the end of their innings. He came not out, and then he proceeded to manage his bowlers brilliantly. Started with Dutt and Van Beek, and then pulled Dutt, brought another spinner on from that end, and then brought Van der Merwe to replace him after that. He rotated the seamers around pretty well, and Van Meekeren, as you mentioned, showing his experience playing T20 cricket around the world, decided it makes no sense for him to keep bowling seam up. Went cross seam, got some balls to bounce when it hit the seam, and when it hit the shiny side of the ball, it skidded through, and he bowled straight, and he got 2 key wickets. The way forward for Netherlands, you think they'll upset anybody else?
I believe that the Netherlands have been representing themselves very well at this World Cup. We know that a lot of questions are asked about the place of associate nations at these tournaments, but whenever an upset like this is pulled off, it really gives a stronger argument to these nations. I believe that a lot of the fear factor has gone from these sort of teams, because when you look at a team like the Netherlands, you look at Afghanistan, you look at the teams that aren't probably as highly touted as the major international teams. These teams have players that are playing in franchise leagues around the world. The Netherlands, for example, have a number of players that play in county cricket in England. Afghanistan have a number of players that play in the T20 leagues around the world. I know that Afghanistan is no longer an associate nation. I don't believe they're an associate nation anymore. Yeah, they're a full member ODI nation. But these teams no longer have the fear factor, and they are coming out to play cricket. It's no longer a case of you play against the Netherlands and you play against a team of probably 9 or 10 amateurs or semi-professional players. These players are serious cricketers who rub shoulders with the major stars of world cricket around the world in franchise leagues. So they should not be taken lightly, and they've taken a major scalp here today. I believe that for the rest of the tournament, if they play cricket like this, it's possible for them to another major scalp. It will be difficult, but they're cricket and they have played good cricket thus far.
Looking with hindsight, it might have been a blessing in disguise that Netherlands played the World Cup qualifiers with half their team missing due to county cricket. It brought about a number of younger inexperienced players onto their radar, and now their squad is stronger for it. Now that the other players have returned, the more senior players, the team has looked like they belong at this World Cup. They haven't been bowled out for like 90, and they haven't been bashed all around the park. They have been in the games for the most part, and most of the time it's just that killer instinct and the experience that has pushed them out of contention in the games previously. But this one, they had it all come together, and it, it they were able to pull off a magnificent victory against South Africa. The way forward for South Africa, do you see this just as a bit of a stumble? Do they just recover from here and continue chugging forward the way that they have been previous to this game?
I believe that it is a bit of a wake-up call for South Africa. They entered this World Cup as one of the form teams, one of the teams that was playing very good cricket. Their batting unit especially was firing on all cylinders. I believe that if they are to be major contenders to win this World Cup title, as they have been touted, I believe that the death bowling has to be better. The execution was poor today. Marco Jansen bowled very well throughout the game, but the likes of an experienced campaigner like Kagisa Rabada, you look at Lungi Ngidi, and you look at Coetzee, I believe that their execution towards the middle and latter overs were not great. The Netherlands, as I said, scored at about 12 or 13 runs and over for the last 6 overs. And that is below par from South Africa's bowling unit. And if they are to contend for the title, that is an area that they will seriously have to address. In terms of the batting, I would probably chalk it down to an off game, but I believe that they have what it takes to perform in these conditions. And it's just about probably going back to the drawing board, regrouping, and then going again.
All right. We'll be watching both teams closely. Hopefully, we can get some more entertainment from the Netherlands. I'm sure South Africa will be looking to get back to winning ways going forward in this tournament. That's the end of today's episode. You have anything else to add?
No, that's it from me.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe.